Okay, we're going to show you how to plot parametric equations on your calculator. So take your calculator, and the first thing you need to go is to mode. Make sure you come down here, take it off of function mode, which is probably in, and put it in parametric mode. Then we will go back. Oh, also make sure that you are in radian mode as well. Make sure you're in radian mode. And now we're going to go back and we go to y equals and we see that we have x and y equations for parametric. So I'm going to start with something that hopefully you'll see is familiar to you. The cosine of t will be my x equation, y will equal the sine of t. And now we have to go to our window and make sure our window is good. We're going to start at t equals 0, and our t max will be 2 pi, which it already was, but I was just typing it in. We're going to make our t-step 0.1, and we're going to leave what's up here. X min's -3, x max is 3, -2 to 2 for the y's. And the reason for that is we're just graphing the cosine of t, sine of t, so the biggest values we're ever going to get is, and the smallest is -1 to 1. So we don't need a very big window. And if we hit graph, you can see it graphs a circle, which you should have expected. Now, what happened here is, remember parametrics plot points. The first thing it did, because our t min was 0 and our t max was 6.28, which is 2 pi, it first plugged in a 0 for t, and it plotted the point x coordinate of the cosine of 0, which is 1. Y would equal the sine of 0, which is 0, so it plotted the point 1, 0. And then the next time it plugged in a 0.1 for t and a point, and then you had the cosine of 0.1, sine of 0.1, then this cosine of 0.2, sine of 0.2, cosine of 0.3, sine of 0.3, etc., all the way around. And of course, we got a circle. And it connected the dots because the mode that I'm in thick mode, which is it's connecting all the dots with a thick line. If I would change that to dot thick mode and hit graph again, you'll notice it just plots a bunch of, it has a bunch of dots, and all those dots it's plotting every 0.1. And if I go to my window and change the t-step to, let's say, pi over 3, and then graph it, now it only plots a point every pi over 3 radians. So it starts with t equals 0, and the next time it plots a point is when t is pi over 3, and the cosine of pi over 3 is 0.5, or 1/2. The sine of pi over 3 is radical 3 over 2, which is 0.866. Then it adds another pi over 3, and it plots the cosine of 2 pi over 3, comma, sine of 2 pi over 3. Cosine of 2 pi over 3 is -0.5. Sine is 0.866, radical 3 over 2. And it continues to do that all the way around until you get to 2 pi. So you can see, again, same thing. If I go to my window and I make my t-step pi over 6 and graph it, now you can see it plots a point every pi over 6 radians. And it gives you, basically, those are your unit circle values as you go around the circle. And again, if you go to mode and go down into, I'm going to go to thin this time just to see what it looks like, and graph it. Ugh, that doesn't look good at all. But that's because why? Well, I'm only plotting a point every pi over 6. And so if I hit trace, it plots that point, then it plots that point, and then it plots that point, and it's trying to join it with a straight line. So in order to make that look nice, we need to go to our window and make our t-step like 0.1 and then graph it. And let's see if it makes any difference by going to 0.01. Well, one thing it'll do is it's going to graph it a lot slower. You can actually see it graph around, and it does make it a nice smooth line or curve. So you can see all those things about the parametric equations. One other thing I'd like to show you is with this particular example is on the y equals, I'm going to insert 1.5 here in front of cosine, and I'm also going to insert 1.5 in front of the sine. And what that's going to do is it's going to multiply cosine sine by 1.5, which means the radius of my circle is now going to be 1.5. I'm going to do one more thing, and I'm going to go back to 0.1 for my t-step, and I want you to look at something. Right here, why is there a gap right here? Why did it not complete the circle? Well, the easy answer is, if you look at your window, I'm going, my Tmax is 6.28, that's 2 pi, but my t-step is 0.1, so it goes t is 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, it gets to 6.0, 6.1, 6.2, but the next one it would plot was 6.3, but that's above my Tmax. So it never really gets to 6.28. So that's why there's a little gap there. So if you're going to need to either change your Tmax to 6.3, or you would need to go back in and go back to your 0.01 in order to get that. Now, some other fun things you can do is if you only want to plot part of the circle, you could only go to pi, and then that would just graph the top half of the circle. And you could play around with that and do all different parts of the circle. Another interesting thing is, what if you wanted it to go the other direction? What if you wanted this to go, instead of curving around counterclockwise, what if you wanted it to go clockwise? Well, the easy thing to do there would be, if I want to start and go clockwise, I would need my y values to start negative. And now if I hit graph, because the y values started negative, it went this direction. And if I wanted to go all the way around, I would need to make that 2 pi. And it graphs it all the way around the other direction. And there's some other things you can do with that, you can play with, but I'm going to stop the video at this time. And I hope I did record a video. All right, that's it. No. I